Hello again, we're doing Sculpt January, and this is number 9, and the title was Tools, or Tool, and I chose a sword. I like the fantasy genre of gaming, and swords are quite a fun one to do. So I started off with a basic cube and just subdivided it and extruded it. I put a subdivision surface modifier on first, and it's got a mirror modifier. The same principles apply for modelling as they do sculpting. Start off with low detail and then increase the detail gradually. So you can see my loop cuts there, I started to add towards the end. Don't add the loop cuts too early, because then you'll end up with a big messy topology which will be very difficult to modify. So then I applied the subdivision surface modifier. I upped the detail level to about 4 or 5, something like that, and then went into sculpt mode. And I've applied the Dyne Topo on constant detail and slowly start defining the shape. I'm using the snake hook tool as usual to get the shape, and then a lot of the crease brush with the pinch brush. I find it very difficult actually, hard surface modelling. I think a lot of sculptors find that tough because you're trying to get those hard surfaces, so those hard edges, and you end up using the crease brush and the pinch brush over and over again, and you have to have really sort of smooth lines, and it's tough to get it right. I don't think I went far enough with this model. If you look at the finished model, it looks a little bit blobby and the edges look too beveled. If I were to do it again, I think I'd retopologize it and then go into the multi-resolution modifier to sculpt. I find that a tiny bit easier with finding the edges. There's also plugins like Hard Ops by Master Sion. They cost a fair bit of money, so I haven't used it. I can't really justify the cost because I don't sculpt enough. And I like most of my tutorials and things to be about everything you can get for free. But not that I'm against paying people for their work. I think it's a great thing that there's developers out there developing these things. I did set myself a time limit. I went over the time limit. It took about 3 hours again. So if I were to go back to this model, I'd certainly tidy up those edges. Also, I should have had a plan for this handle because that took me a lot longer than it should have done, and it didn't even look that great by the end of it. I was thinking metal on wood or something like that. That is quite a tricky thing with these projects, getting the balance right with planning and then actually sculpting. I'm a big believer in spending a lot of time in the planning stages. I was quite pleased with how the wolf hilt came out. I probably spent too long doing this again. That's one thing I find a bit tricky, is figuring out how long to spend on the smaller details. But sometimes those details aren't really seen, so it's not really worth it, and probably what I should have spent more time in was tidying up the mesh and getting the edges a bit sharper. I have said to myself that I'm not going to spend as long texturing the models anymore. Although I did end up spending a fair bit of time texturing this one. But I was more just experimenting with techniques. But I'm not going to go through any extra effort because it's really a sculpting challenge and not a painting or texturing challenge. Although, as Jacob said on one of my videos a little while ago, it's a good idea to present your models well, but that doesn't mean I have to texture, of course. Good lighting makes a big difference. I thought I'd get away with the edges if I made it look a bit worn with the sort of cracks and nicks within the blade, but it didn't completely work. I think on the final render the noise reduction didn't help. It tends to blur your renders and it kind of highlights the fact that things aren't sharp. So I'm doing my usual, make a duplicate, decimate the mesh, unwrap it, and then do some ambient occlusion and cavity bakes, and of course the normals. And this time I decided to paint a emission shader as well. Is the blue glow. I thought it could kind of go with my ice golem, or maybe be the only weapon that could damage the ice golem, or something silly like that. I didn't actually record that bit, but I probably will do a tutorial on that. Lots of people have asked for tutorials on different things, so it'll be tutorial February by the sound of things. But I like doing those. Once again, I really appreciate the feedback. It's been fantastic, and like I say, it's really kept me going. I think I would have given up quite a while ago actually if it weren't for that. It's so nice to hear people enjoying my models. It makes a big difference. So here it is. I'm not sure whether this is the best way of showing it, best textures, but it's one way. So thanks for watching. And remember, the links are in the description for Sculpt January. Get involved and I'll see you there.